Scott just made the point.
Jefferson used to be a lot more secure, not just.
You've heard it for years that politics is downstream from culture. If that's true, then what does the political future hold in the wake of some of the most popular teen books and movies? I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by Stephen Green and Bill Whittle. Men, what if the bad guy in pop culture were big, remote control, centralized, bureaucratic, mind-numbing, conformist government? And I'm not talking about fringe pop culture, so don't get all Ayn Randy on us, because most folks will just shrug that off. Recently, we've witnessed the huge popularity of books and movies like The Hunger Games, Divergent, and The Giver. In each story, the hero battles against an all-powerful government determined to destroy individual initiative, innovation, love, and joy, while convincing people that it's all worthwhile to keep us safe and secure. Now, Stephen Green, is this a new trend that bodes well for the youth of the future, or just another desperate hope on the inexorable downslope to Stalingrad?
Oh, boy. You know, you just made me think of something. You mentioned Atlas Shrugged. And, you know, after the Bible, Atlas Shrugged is the best-selling book in America since its release in 1957. So it's not like people haven't been exposed to these libertarian-leaning ideas for almost 60 years now, 70 years, however long it's been. I can't do math on TV. It's not in my contract. But what I notice is the one thing from Atlas Shrugged all the way to Divergent have in common is it's always a dystopian future. It's always this awful thing, this liberty-crushing state coming down on us in the future. So it's as though we're not quite worried about it enough yet to actually take action right now in the present, despite these really prescient warnings from these authors, starting with Ayn Rand, and, well, not even starting with Ayn Rand. You can go back to Orwell and so on. But we haven't actually taken action to roll back this massive state. But let's look at a different movie, slightly more fun movie, one of my favorite movies, Ghostbusters. Other than Zool, who is the bad guy in Ghostbusters? It's the pushy EPA guy from the Environmental Protection Agency. There's your bad guy, the moron who has no... Now then, can you picture that? Can you picture that movie getting made today where the EPA guy is the bad guy? No. And until we can, I don't think we're making any progress.
Leave it to Stephen Green to slip in a celebration of the 30th anniversary of Ghostbusters. Thank you, Steve. On the bright side, the editors over at Salon.com mocked and denigrated Divergent and Hunger Games, saying that they're fostered by rich corporations to keep us in our place. Here's the money quote from a piece that they posted earlier this year. The model of individualism presented as so noble and so embattled in these oxygen propaganda movies is, in fact, the authoritarian ideology of our time, the instrument used by the 1% to drive down wages, dominate and distort the political process, and make all attempts at collective action by those below look stodgy, embarrassing, and futile. Well, Bill Whittle, has big publishing and big Hollywood gone big capitalism to keep the little guy down? Or is this libertarian theme actually bubbling up from the young and restless?
I don't think you need big movies or capitalist agitprop to make collective action look, what were the words? Something, something, and something, all of them weenie and stupid and bad. You don't need movies for that. Everybody already knows that the people at Occupy Wall Street are a bunch of smelly hippies with no jobs who are smashing windows to get things that they don't want to work for. It's not so hard to figure that out. Don't need a big movie for that. No, I think, you know, what's really interesting about these dystopian futures is you need coercion to rebel against. And no matter how hard they try, they can't get around the fact that if you have a corporation, if you don't like what the corporation's doing at McDonald's, you go over the street to Burger King, right? I mean, you know, if the giant AmeriCorps, you know, is overwhelming in the future, I suppose you could always work for Global Corpicon, and you know, and you have a choice anyway. You need coercion, and that's the government. And they don't like it. They don't like the fact that for the first time in a long time, the pop culture is working against them. So they're starting to see smoke come out of their ears because they know that's how they got where they are in the first place. But to be perfectly honest with you, I think if you want to talk about a movie that really just nailed it for the good guys and the bad guys, it'd be the last Batman movie, where Bane literally sets up Occupy Wall Street. People just trash everything. And they walk into this once nice house and said, it's a catastrophe. It's a disaster. Somebody used to live here. It used to belong to somebody. He says, now it belongs to everybody. That's why all books are all on the floor and the toilets are backed up and the windows are smashed. Now it belongs to everybody. And, you know, the good guy in the Batman movies is, you know, an individual billionaire. You can't get around it. In the same way, just to elaborate, just super quick, the same way that no matter how much of a socialist D-bag Matt Damon is and Jamie Foxx and all their talk about gun control and all this, you know, touchy-feely stuff, we only know about these guys because they run around on their own with a gun, defending themselves against the government, sheltering the beautiful girl as they speed away in a fast car that probably gets 4 miles to the gallon. They can't undo the fact that they are the philosophies of weenies and D students and losers, and we're not.
And you're absolutely right. They couldn't make the Occupy Wall Street crowd look credible as the heroic elements in those movies. They just couldn't do it. You know, my favorite of these 3 movies that came out within the last year or so is The Giver. And it literally took my breath away when the head of state in the movie said, quote, "When people have the freedom to choose, they choose wrong." You know, I saw this mindset when I worked for a public school system where the administrators thought that they'd have better schools if it weren't for the parents. I heard it from a public employee advocate who told state lawmakers at a hearing once that if teachers controlled their own retirement accounts, they might make mistakes and lose money. And I heard it from state officials in my own political party back in Pennsylvania who told me sincerely that voters weren't smart enough to choose the right nominee, so we'd have to use their donations to narrow the field before the primary. Movies like The Hunger Games, Divergent, and The Giver will have an impact, but prepare for the backlash. You don't go up against the Death Star without expecting a deafening barrage of countermeasures. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.